Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to a very delicate topic, but also at the same time it's a very important one. And what are we exactly doing in this episode? I'm gonna explain you the situation, of course using an example which was brought to me. Then I'm gonna explain you what tool TOPWAR must implement, and also explaining the River Game employees that they indirectly already agreeing that such a tool is required in TOPWAR. And towards the end of the video, I'm gonna explain you how can you participate on this debate, because yes, you guessed it, we're also gonna have a poll on which I strongly suggest you should participate. So you probably already guessed it when you saw the thumbnail of this video, that the topic is players going rogue on a certain server. While this up a certain point, it's kind of okay, we also have to mention there are certain limits, even if this is a war game. And the limits are as soon as one single player has a negative impact on the gaming experience of a certain amount of players, this is no longer an excuse that this is a war game. It's rather us showing River Game how this tool should look like and explain why this tool must be implemented. So of course for today's episode we do indeed have a case, because the server leader of server 2600, Mr. Tom, has contacted me today in the morning and explaining their problem. So let's have a look at this server, and here we have an account. Yes, I haven't specifically used the term player, you're gonna soon understand why, which is Mr. Poseidon here going rogue and causing a lot of chaos. We players also have a term for this, which is, yeah, he is being toxic. And this account behavior affects the gaming experience in a negative way of roughly 300 players. But why exactly have I used the term account and not player? Because you guessed it, this special case is slightly more spicier, because this account here was owned by one of their friends, which has decided to stop playing TOPWAR and actually sold his account. So here we have to mention that this is slightly against the code of conduct. And not just River Game, but pretty much any gaming developing company which wanna have their game published in the Apple Store or Google Store or you name it, they are requested to have this as a rule. You shall not sell your account or trade your account. But we all know that the reality is a different one, and it's slightly more complex than that, because it's not just affecting River Game, which surely hopes that such an account, by staying active, can potentially generate still some revenue, but also at the same time, for you players, this is indeed one alternative, which by the way I have to mention in here, I strongly disagree with this. Selling your account, but the reality is a lot of players actually doing this. So this player here, Mr. Poseidon, has a very toxic behavior on server 2600. And the reason why the River Game employee is already indirectly agreeing with this is the fact that we see a lot of events are alliance versus alliance, or server versus server, or multiple servers versus multiple servers. In other words, what River Game is doing, which is absolutely fantastic, and I also would recommend such an approach, is to encourage players to interact with each other and understand up a certain point you really have to agree on the set of rules in order to have a successful battle event. So how should this tool look like? Now, I know a case from a different game in which that developing company has actually created a server, and let's put this actually in a very diplomatic way, for such players which really want to experience this game from the solo perspective. But guess what, buddy? You will not be the only one in there, and if you indeed like this type of action to play the game in a solo mode, you're definitely gonna have a lot of fun in there. So in other words, how should this tool look like? And we have to move to the capital, because here we should have a tool which a server leader can actually access to start a poll within this server and ask the players, do you consider that this specific player has a toxic behavior Or in other words, it's negatively influencing your gaming experience, yes or no. And the server leader can decide whenever he thinks he has the most amount of votes from all the players of his server, and then he can forward this to a mod. And here we have to add that the mods in TOPWAR are literally paid in gold bricks. In other words, mods do not generate any kind of financial burden for RiverGame whatsoever. So a mod can come here and investigate the situation and write his or her review and send this to the developers, because this is exactly how RiverGame is internally structured. Only the developers have access to such tools because yes, these are very powerful tools, and the developers can review this case along with a recommendation coming from this mod and take this toxic player and move him to a server specifically designed for such players. And I think this is a wonderful idea because you are not banning this player, and of course this player indeed has the alternative to transfer somewhere else if he chooses so, but we also have to mention that being on such a server, you are indeed branded for such behavior. So it wouldn't necessarily be that easy for you to actually get accepted on a different server, but then again, buddy, it's your fault for ending up in there in the first place. So beautiful people, now let's come to you, because your participation in this discussion and also in the vote, it's what makes this tool requirement have a higher or a lower priority, because it's always depending how many players are affected by such behaviors. So in other words, if you have something to add on how this tool should look like, you can do that exactly in this video, in the comments. And on top of this, yes, I'm gonna soon start a poll on this YouTube channel, which I'm gonna link to you guys also in this video description, and on the TOPWAR official Discord channel, in which I'm gonna clearly ask this question: do you think that TOPWAR requires such a tool against toxic behaving players? And the answers will gonna be super simple, yes or no. And I'm gonna take this poll and I'm gonna forward this towards the developers. And of course, depending on how many players are actively voting, this will determine if TOPWAR will ever get such a tool, yes or no. And may I remind you, we have a similar tool when two servers can prove and show that they agree they want to merge with each other, and they can provide this data to a mod. This can be forwarded to the developers to have a closer look, and yes, indeed, they can be specifically merged with each other. So as always, beautiful people, yeah, don't forget to support what supports you back. This is this channel, and this is me personally since November 2022. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you have subscribed to this channel. We are on our way now to 18,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to see me in the next one. Ciao, guys.